Exploring the Relationship Between Resiliency and Radical Leaders by Charlie. First, to provide some context, good leaders are key in our current society. We rely on them to choose, make decisions for us, and choose paths for us. And therefore, the quality of their leadership is very important. There are many factors that affect the quality of leadership, and one such factor is the leader's beliefs. There are many different beliefs a leader can hold, and one such belief is a radical belief. A radical belief is defined as a belief that advocates total political or social change. Because of the importance beliefs have on a leader's decisions, it is imperative for us to understand what can manipulate and change these beliefs. And one such way these can be changed is through resilience. And this leads into my question, does resiliency create a more radical leadership? And the answer to this is yes. First, if leaders are too resilient in difficult times, they can feel overconfident. Resiliency can create negative personalities in leadership, as Thomas Chamorro Presuman of Harvard Business Review says, that in the face of seemingly hopeless circumstances, some people resemble a superhero that runs through a brick wall, unemotional, fearless, and hyperphagenic. As this quote shows, leaders who are resilient in situations can sometimes become overconfident, believing they can take on anything. And this overconfidence can lead them to becoming detached and isolated from their peers. And this isolation is a negative, as Nancy Lindberg of the United States Institute of Peace says, that the grievances that fuel radicalization are often exacerbated by an absence of social, peer, and family support. If leaders are detached from their peers, they are more likely to believe in radical ideas. Next, if leaders are too resilient during difficult times, this can lead them to believing in extremist ideas. As I've previously shown, leaders being resilient can sometimes lead them to becoming isolated, and extremist groups can exploit this isolation, as Megan Ross from the Center of Public Integrity says. Michael said that recruiters from extremist groups target people, often working class and ex-military, who believe they've been victimized and shortchanged by society. So that's what we would do, he said, is look for people who are suffering, look for whatever is wrong in their life, and then we would try and spin that problem into our narrative and invite them in as a means of addressing the problem. Extremist groups can exploit people who feel like they've been wronged by society and are alone. As you can see with this graph talking about the sub-pathways of internalization for extremist groups, or how extremist groups make their members feel as though they belong, their main methods all involve a manipulation of the person's sense of identity. To add on to this, the United Kingdom's government says that extremist messages and memberships of an extremist groups can offer a sense of purpose, community, and identity, which may be appealing, especially if someone is experiencing challenges in their life. To tie this back to my question, leaders who are experiencing difficult times and are resilient may become isolated, and this isolation will make them more susceptible to believe extreme ideas and join extreme groups. However, it must be noted that not all radical leaders and ideas created by resilience are bad. One such example comes from Nelson Mandela in A Long Walk to Freedom, in which he says, as a leader, one must sometimes take actions that are unpopular or whose results will not be known for years to come. There are victories whose glory only lies in the fact that they are known to those who win them. This is particularly true of prison, where one must find consolation in being true to one's ideas, even if no one else knows of it. Nelson Mandela's idea of ending apartheid was radical at the time, however, it produced a majority of benefits. Furthermore, the Australian government says that a person believes moves from being conventionally to radical. This is not necessarily a bad thing, as it does not mean the person will become violent. Radical ideas only become dangerous when they advocate violence or they say that violence is okay. To rebut the arguments I made, the Journal of Healthcare says that it's possible to describe resilience as an acceptance of her conditions, as solidarity determined by Haitians helping Haitians, and the resumption of normal activities despite the devastation levied by an earthquake. This quote produces a counterclaim by saying that resilience does not drive people to accept changes, but rather an attempt to return to normal before they experience the hardship. However, I rebut this with Working Capital Review, which says that an overvaluing of resilience can sometimes cause people to pursue goals blindly that are unrealistic, unreasonable, and unobtainable. Even with the goal of returning to normalcy, this can lead to someone having too much resistance and trying too hard to achieve this goal. If they try too hard to achieve this goal, then they can sometimes isolate others as they keep pushing even though it is causing suffering in others. And this rebuts the claim, meaning that even though they are attempting to return to normal, they still isolate themselves with others, which will lead into the previously mentioned more likely joining of extremist groups and believing extremist ideas. Returning this to the question, does resiliency create more radical leadership? The answer to this is yes. And as I've stated previously, the answer to this is yes, because over-resilient leaders will become overconfident, and therefore they will be more likely to join extremist groups and believe extremist ideas. However, just because someone holds radical beliefs does not mean these beliefs are bad for society. These beliefs only become bad when they start advocating dangerous ideas or violence. The reason this is all important is because we rely on leaders to make many decisions for us. And therefore, if leaders have radical ideas, this will be reflected in their decisions for both positives and negatives. Sorry. And therefore, we need to understand why and how leaders' ideas can be changed, because their decisions have major impacts on our lives, as we all have some sort of leader we have to follow.
Terrific. Thanks, Charlie. I have a couple of questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up. So for your first question, was there any information that you looked for and thought you needed, but you weren't able to find? And how did you overcome that?
So what I was looking for was like a peer-reviewed journal I could have used to refute the counterclaim I made, and I couldn't really find anything that was like very effective at that, so I just decided to use the highest quality like publication I could find.
Okay, outstanding. And then your follow-up question is, what are the implications of your findings to your larger community? What do what you have to say about leadership in society?
Yeah, so most people are under some sort of leader, and it's important for us to understand like how that leader can develop their ideas, as a leader's ideas will be directly reflected on their decisions, which will like directly affect you as they're in charge of you. So if they make bad decisions, they'll negatively affect you. So it's important for us to understand why leaders can develop the beliefs they have and how these impact their decisions.
Okay. Terrific. Thanks, Charlie.